Hello, welcome today. I hope your coffee is warm, that's the first thing I want to say. But the second thing I want to say is that I have a new idea for this type of video where we are looking at the most interesting or splashy cards that entered standard from the new set. And I think we are looking at a great example here, so just let's start with it and see what we learn. So, Cory Steelcutter is a new card that has entered the standard decks, many aggressive ones at least, and it works best I think in the Izzet standard decks. So Cory Steelcutter says just for 2 mana it's an equipment that would give your creatures +1/+1 trample and haste. So you would say, well, doesn't really fit in a creature light deck, but it has flurry, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, which you will be doing in the Izzet deck, create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess. Meaning for just 2 mana you can keep making 1/1s with prowess, which do really fit well in this deck, and they will also get haste +1/+1, so they are 2/2 actually, and trample, so that makes the creatures already pretty good. And you will keep making them, and you can use this equipment on other creatures if you need to. So in this deck, usually what you have is just 2 creatures. You have the Slickshot Show Off. Don't look at this instant or artifact. I just put them in 2 rows so that you see which is the new one. That says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets 2 power. So that is really strong, of course. Pair it with haste, but it has pair it with flying. But it has haste already, so you wouldn't even need the Cory Steelcutter for it. And the Monastery Swift Spear, which also already has haste, so you wouldn't need it, but it has prowess. So you just add another prowess creature to your deck, which is basically all you want. You have the Storm Chaser's Talent, that could use the haste, it creates a 1/1 with prowess again. And then aside from that you just have small cards, mostly ones that you can play on tempo, so you can play them yourself to create a situation where you use the flurry ability every time. So just sleight of hand and maybe a into the Floodmaw, and you will create a flurry monk already. That's all you need. So that is why this is in standard already. If you are wondering what Cory means, well, Cory is just the place of a mountain monastery for the Jeskai, where every spire is a physical dedication to the way. Next deck is the Azorius deck that is all about small artifacts and stuff like that. It really benefits from United Battlefront, but I think this will be in way more decks in the near future. It says look at the top 7 cards of your library, so a lot of cards will be looked at. Then you put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanents with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom. This card is just 4 mana for 2 non-creature, non-land permanents. So it will be very easy to create 2 artifacts from the top of your deck. And of course this must remind you of a card that did this for creatures. But this time I think it might be undoubtedly even stronger. So you have the Repurposing Bay, which you can get. You have the Assimilation Aegis. You have a bunch of cool small artifacts that can remove other creatures, that can give you better creatures from your deck, or well, basically a lot of removal. So this will definitely be a more controlling deck, but you will also have some great finishes here for bigger creatures, and you can turn your smaller artifacts into big artifacts by sacrificing them with the Repurposing Bay, for example, and eventually getting, for example, the Riptide Gearhawk. When this creature enters, for each opponent put up to 1 target non-land permanent they control on the top of their library, and it is just a 2/5 with double strike and prowess, meaning that it will grow very quickly with the amount of non-creatures you will be playing. So a great fun deck, and I think United Battlefront sort of ties it together by being a refueling card that also puts cards right back onto the battlefield. I also wonder, what is your favorite art of this? The United Battlefront one, or the normal one where you see the Absent riding into battle, or more like these bolt thrower guys. Also, I think to remember that the Epson promised never to use wooden weapons again, but here they are. Next up is a Dimir deck that is all about controlling. Of course it is Dimir. It's just a deck with a bunch of things that, well, kill things. Shielder's Edict, go for the throat, duress to control your opponent, maybe a cut down, stuff like that. And then with Doomsday Excruciator, it's a bunch of black mana you have to pay, so a bit hard usually to do, but in this deck you don't have many islands, just one actually. And then Doomsday Excruciator says when it enters, if it was cast, you do have to cast it. Each player exiles all but the bottom 6 cards of their library face down. And then you will defeat your opponent by having them be decked. And you will win because of these new cards like Scavenger Regent. So also note, by the way, before I say anything else, this has one creature, or used to have one creature, the Doomsday Excruciator, and couldn't really use many other creatures in it because it needed to be so controlling for this type of effect to win. But Scavenger Regent and the other one have an effect that is also a sorcery. So you can choose between the sorcery, each non-dragon gets -X/-X until end of turn, or the creature, which is a 4/4 that can also attack with the ward ability and flying. Same with the Marang River Regent, both 4-offs, which can be a draw spell, draw 3, then discard a card, or can be a 6/7 flyer that also bounces to creatures. So 2 very controlling cards, but also could be creatures to finish the game for you. So you have a sort of alternate win con with some flyers. And Caustic Exile, which was a great example to add as a removal spell. So Scavenger Regent, bit of a dirty boy as he sits there with his pile of dead corpses on him before him. Can be 2 things, so removal or a big creature. Marang River Regent, another Regent that creepily crawls through the dead forest, can bounce 2 creatures. As it is a 6/7, it will also defeat your opponent on its own. And then Caustic Exile is just 1 mana, where you can behold a dragon or pay an extra mana, so it will usually be just 1 mana. And then target creature gets -3/-3, which will be great for all of those aggro decks out in standard right now. So a great deck to defeat your opponents that are very aggressive, and has some extra things that really work well. I think the Regents, all of them, fit here very perfectly because of the Omen thing. Because every time you cast an Omen spell, if you and your opponents both have just 7 mana or 7 cards left in deck, that might mean that you lose before your opponent does. But with an Omen card, you can shuffle it into your library and keep controlling the battlefield and get cards back into your library, so you will win and your opponent will lose. Basically, that's it for every deck that we will go by. But let me know what you think about this setup, and well, have a nice day. Bye.